Ryan, the culture is an issue, it seems. Maybe Lincoln talks different behind the scenes, but publicly, I feel like he makes excuses in holding the kids accountable. And I think it's hard to. That's a very good point, Ryan, because it's very hard. I've talked about this with Mark and just some friends of mine internally as well, but it's so hard to judge um, Lincoln because he has more coach speak than any coach in the country. He doesn't he's not really he's not really one that really completely says what's on his mind. I think so. I think it's fair to say that the way he talks to his kids and inside closed doors is maybe a little bit different than he talks about them. Um, you know, talks about them, in front of people. And I think Ryan, I think the reason why he's been so, um, I think one of the reasons why he's been so supportive of them in public, specifically the offensive line, is I think there's been some confidence issues there with how they played. So uh, you know, I think that's a concern that any coach would have. I mean, I think there's a balance that you have to strike, um, with a balance that you're going to have to strike with a lot of these players. Do you have a hard mentality with them, or do you do you have to coddle them a little bit? I mean, maybe think it's a little bit of both, but I think whatever it is, I think it seems like in public, he's not watching the same thing that we are. So I think it has to be a little bit of he doesn't want to ruin their confidence. It doesn't want to ruin, their ability to, because if you lose them, um, then you lose them in terms of that confidence. If it's gone, then it's hard to get it back. If you don't go in there, you're not playing well. Maybe you're not as talented as some of the guys that they've had in the past, and then you lose some of that confidence that hurts you as well. The one thing that I would think from Riley today that was very just just bizarre. I mean, and I'm kind of racking my brain just a little bit, and I still don't understand. He put in Caleb Williams early in the game, on that goal, and he mishandled the snap, which happens. I get it. But then he puts him in, and they throw like a quick pass out to the Mario Williams, which actually gains like 18 yards, one of the longer pass catch and run passes Oklahoma's had this year. Um, and then he takes him out. It was bizarre. Like I don't really understand why, unless Rattler had some sort of an equipment issue or something like that, unless you wanted to give defenses something else to look at later in the year for some individual packages. I thought that was very bizarre. They didn't say much about it. I haven't heard much about it, from social media afterwards, but I think it would be interesting to see, what was part of his thinking in doing that. Um, Thompson is a draftable QB 6-year player. Casey is not that good as the Kansas State QB. Um, I would, Leonard, I disagree. I think specifically right now with um, the health that Kyler Thompson had today, I don't, um, I don't think that he is quite as good. The upside of Casey Thompson's a little bit better than Thompson, both Thompson, but Casey is a little bit better than Skyler in my opinion. Um, yeah, I think I agree. I agree with that. Thanks for the super chat, Jesse. I appreciate it. Absolutely, absolutely. Is Cordell going to the portal? I haven't heard anything about Jeremiah Cordell. I've heard Justin Harrington is putting his name into the portal, but I have not heard anything about Jeremiah Cordell. I wouldn't be surprised by the fact that I don't think he even sniffed the field today. Um, he was not. He did not play the times that he's been in the on the field for Oklahoma. He's not played extremely well. He's looked very timid and very tentative, just going up to make some of those plays. So um, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Although it's not a good look for Oklahoma if you lose two secondary kids as well. Um, yep, Stanford wins. Mentioned that just a few minutes ago. Another top five team loses today. Um, I'm in the latter train of thought. Mediocre play will catch up with us. It finally caught up with Notre Dame today. I think. Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think eventually, I mean, unless you're one of those teams that is able to increasingly improve each and every week, I think you've got the personally, I mean, things can change. I think the way things are looking right now, I think Texas looks like, and if you want to say Oklahoma's the best, let's just go under that assumption. You want to say Oklahoma's the best team in the Big 12 right now. I think Texas looks like the second best team in the Big 12 at this point right now. It could get to a situation where Iowa State's better. It could be, I thought West Virginia might have been the best team in the Big 12, but then they lose at home to Texas Tech today. So I think um, you've got Texas, you've got Baylor, and you've got Oklahoma State. And Iowa State, obviously, they're still in that conversation, even though they've lost a couple of games. Yeah, we talked about that a lot, Jay. Defensive line, they just, it was the first game all year that they really weren't able to get a ton of pressure um, on the. They weren't able to get a ton of pressure on the quarterback. I mean, I think Isaiah Thomas got one sack, and they got some pressure from time to time, but I think the offensive line did a good job. So I think right now where my thought is you give a little bit more credit to the offensive line of Kansas State than really just say that Oklahoma played bad defensively, specifically on the defensive line. But I think if it continues to be a trend, I think it's something to look at. But one thing you look at is Texas's is offensive line, specifically from a pass protection perspective, isn't probably as good as Kansas State's is. So Oklahoma, I mean, that's evident over the last 2 years how much pressure Oklahoma's been able to get. So I think Oklahoma has an opportunity to make some noise in the backfield of Texas next week. Grinch needs to get more 3 and outs. Yeah, and I think that's been the calling card for the Oklahoma defense over the last couple of years with Grinch here is they really haven't they've really been in a situation where they've been really good on third down, and it's not quite been the same this year for whatever reason. They're just not able to get off the field consistently on third down. They'll need to. They were really good last week against West Virginia, but obviously not quite as good as they need to be today. So that's something that definitely needs to get better. Absolutely. Let's see. Yes, thank you, Jimmy. We definitely we won. That's about all you can say, I think. Um, I agree with Ryan. The culture is bad when the kids are not smoking weed but robbing the weed guy. Super stupid. Why would a college football player be comfortable with doing that? I I have no idea. I have no idea. It's bizarre, like especially these kids that are set to make millions of dollars, and they ruin it by making bad decisions. But um, let's beat Texas. Another beat Texas, getting it in early. I like it. I like it. Biggie, our line looked better, but our center needs to be better. Yeah, and I think the one thing, and I listen and I invite you guys to listen. I listen to Gabe and Teddy a lot talk about this team, and he Gabe holds the center to a very high standard, and he's talked about a lot about this year. that Raym's going to catch. He's going to catch some heat. He's going to be a guy that's going to struggle. His strength is probably not where it needs to be, but I think it's sort of a baptism by fire situation where um, he's going to take some licks, but I think he's going to get better. Um, you guys remember you guys remember Orlando Brown? When I remember his first year, he got abused time and time again at the left tackle position against Tennessee down there. I remember he got abused over and over. Ended up being, one of the better offensive linemen that Oklahoma has had, and just a really dominant player and an NFL player right now. So yeah, I think that he'll take some beatings this year from time to time, and he'll get some good learning experience out of this, and be and be. I think he's going to be a really good player for Oklahoma, but he's not there yet. He has a chance to get there this year, but I think it's more about his maturation and more about exactly what he's going to do for the future of Oklahoma.